What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we got the corporate press. They're on the hunt again. They're looking to manipulate everything, and they're lying to you to sow a narrative to try to make you think, oh, the Trump administration is bad and Democrats are good. Check this out, y'all. Trump administration ordered to undo yet another wrongful deportation, and I put that in air quotes because they're saying it's wrongful deportation when it's really not. But, you know, spoiler alert, we'll get into that. Check this out, y'all. Last night, a federal district court judge in Massachusetts ordered the U.S. government to facilitate the return of a Guatemalan man who was deported to Mexico despite having presented evidence that he had been kidnapped and there on his way to the United States last year. The man, known in court documents as OCG, won an order in his immigration case in February protecting him from being deported to Guatemala. That's going to be important here in a minute. Which he said he fled after facing violence and persecution for his sexuality. 2 days later, thinking, once again, they're in the brain of this guy. According to court documents, that he was being released from immigration detention, he was loaded onto a bus with other men and brought from the U.S. to Mexico, where authorities then deported him to Guatemala anyway. So now what they're saying is the Trump administration, they're trying to say that the Trump administration deported him to Guatemala when that's not the case. He was deported to Mexico, and Mexico deported him to Guatemala. It was not the United States at all. And I don't know why, if you have a last order of deportation but a stay on being deported to Guatemala, why do you think that you're going to stay in the country? You were ordered deported by the immigration authorities, for crying out loud. Why in any world would you stay in the United States? But, you know, the corporate press is not going to tell you this, and they're trying to manipulate you into thinking that the United States deported this guy to Guatemala against the orders of the court, which is just blatantly false. OCG is now living in hiding in Guatemala, avoiding going out or being seen with family, according to a sworn declaration filed in his lawsuit. The people who targeted me before know who I am, and they have shown me twice before what they are capable of, he said. I can't be gay here, which means I cannot be myself. I cannot express myself, and I am not free. That's not our problem. Look, I'm sorry. That might be a bad situation. That is the law in Guatemala. That is not the law in the United States, and that has nothing to do with us. I am sorry. That is how it is in your country. If you want to be allowed to be yourself in your country, advocate and change the laws there. You don't illegally enter our country and then get an order of deportation and then sue to try to have that stopped for some reason, right? You're getting all kinds of nonsense tied up into the court system over here for nothing. If this guy truly felt persecuted from his country, he would have went to the U.S. Embassy in Guatemala and got a visa or something, claimed asylum, did something, but he didn't do that, did he? No. He traveled through Mexico and came to the United States and came in this country illegally. Once again, folks, this is the differentiation between criminal aliens and immigrants. The corporate press, they constantly call this, they're calling this guy a migrant. He is not a migrant. He is a criminal alien. He entered this country without permission, right? And once again, you know, you got the left talking about due process and all this. Well, hang on. What sense does it make for a person to circumvent the process by which you can come into this country legally? And then when we catch you in this country illegally, what makes you think that there's some sort of due process to exit this country? Hang on. You didn't care about the process to come in. Why should we care about that process to kick you out? That's all I'm saying here. District Judge Brian E. Murphy, who also ruled Wednesday against the Trump administration's attempt to deport migrants not from South Sudan to that country, wrote in his order that OCG was likely to succeed in showing that his removal lacked any semblance of due process. Once again, Yes, he had final orders of deportation, for goodness sakes. That means he got his due process. Like, this is just insanity coming from these district judges, right? These people go through immigration court. They get orders of deportation from the court. They get the due process they are deserved. And then when they don't like that due process, these federal judges come in and say, oh, well, they didn't get any due process. What do you mean by that? It's insane is what it is. And that the federal government couldn't legally send him to Mexico without taking additional steps in the immigration case. What is that supposed to mean? It's insane what they do. And they make up all these insane accusations against the Trump administration to try to prove their case. But it's just false. They leave out all kind of pertinent information here. Those necessary steps and OCG's pleas for help were ignored, Murphy wrote. We're not under any obligation to respond to your pleas for help, for goodness sakes. Not when you broke the law to come into this country. Once again, you didn't care about our laws when you entered this country, but you care about the laws when we're going to boot you, when we try to enforce them, essentially. In general, this case presents no special facts or legal circumstances, only that the banal horror of a man being wrongfully loaded onto a bus and sent back to a country where he was allegedly just and kidnapped. Now it's up to U.S. authorities to bring OCG back, or in the language of the court order, to facilitate his return. Last month, the Supreme Court likewise ordered the government to facilitate the return of Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, a man from Maryland who was mistakenly deported and sent to CCOT, El Salvador's notorious terrorism confinement center. That was all a lie. He's not a Maryland man. He was not mistakenly deported. It's just insane what the corporate press does here. It really is. He was an El Salvadorian national who broke into our country. For goodness sakes. He was not mistakenly deported. There was an administrative error that he did not get a CIS interview before we deported him. But he most certainly had final orders of deportation. I'm sorry, look, because the guy didn't get an interview, you can't say he was mistakenly deported. Especially when he had final orders of deportation. That is just manipulative nonsense. That's all that is. It's insane if you ask me, but, I'm trying to be fair here. Yet, Abrego Garcia remains in custody, with the U.S. government claiming it lacks the authority to remove him from El Salvador's custody, even as Trump insists he could return him with a phone call. You love how they say that, huh? Lacks the authority to remove him. They just said he's in the custody of El Salvador. Can we not see the logical disconnect here? Of course we don't have the authority. And of course Donald Trump could say, hey, can you please let this guy out? The thing is, he doesn't have to do that. Murphy, in his order on Friday, appeared to anticipate that the U.S. government would similarly fail to act in OCG's case. He added in a footnote that the word facilitate in his order should carry less baggage than in several other notable cases. OCG is not held by any foreign government. No, but he is a citizen of that government. And what these courts are essentially asking us to do right now, because he was actually deported to Guatemala by Mexico, and we just deported him to Mexico. They are asking us to go and kidnap somebody, essentially. No, of course, they want to do it through the legal process. It's still the same thing. The end result is the same, so what's the difference? Right? I just don't understand these people. In what world would this guy come back to the United States and just get to live his life? None. He was deported for a reason. If Murphy appears fed up, it's because he spent the week dealing with the government's attempts to deport immigrants to third-party countries without giving them a chance to object. Once again, If they have final orders of deportation, there are no objections at that point. That's what the corporate press isn't telling you, and that's what these judges seem to fail to believe for some reason. I don't get that one. They think they can overturn immigration law in this country just by decreeing it's so. It really is insane. In April, the judge issued a preliminary injunction in a lawsuit brought by OCG and other immigrants, ordering the United States to give them a meaningful opportunity to express a fear of death, torture, or persecution before they are sent to a country that is not their own. So basically, what they want to happen here is for somebody to go up to these immigrants, aka criminal aliens, and say, "Do you fear death in your own country? Yes? Then we'll be forced to keep them here." But if they don't come out and say that, this case presents a simple question, Murphy wrote in that order. Before the United States forcibly sends someone to a country other than their own country of origin, must that person be told where they are going and be given a chance to tell the United States that they might be killed if sent there? How are they going to know that in the first place? This is the insanity of these activist judges. How are they going to know if they are not going to be killed in this country? For crying out loud. These judges are blatantly insane. The corporate press is propping up that insanity, and it's all in a bid to make Orange Man look bad. It really is. It's blatantly insane, if you ask me. And I don't understand how the corporate press can get on the side of these criminals. Because obviously he was tied up in immigration court because he broke into this country. For some reason, they don't see these people as criminals, even though they broke into this country, for crying out loud. You come across our border illegally. That is a crime. And I know the left is screaming, it's not a crime, it's a civil offense. No, it's a crime. It's a federal law that they broke. For goodness sakes. The penalty of such is deportation. It's just insane that they want to use all these loopholes to keep these people here for some reason. It's just nuts. It really is. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. This blows my mind, y'all. These judges never fail to surprise the crap out of me with their antics, their insanity, with their psychosis, for goodness sakes. That's what this is. They are psychopaths. And they are sitting on the federal circuit, for goodness sakes. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But like I said, y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe if you liked what you saw. Sign up, become a member. If you want to help me fight against the corporate press, y'all do that. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. But that's all I got. I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.